Chapter 1, The Green Wall. What Joe Reynoso called the special parking area for law enforcement vehicles was really just a side street with especially obvious no parking tollway signs every 20 feet, conveniently close to the California State Capitol building. It was bordered by busy officers but patrolled vigilantly by the Sacramento Police Department. I followed Joe's unmarked but state-issued Cavalier into the little street, then pulled over to park behind it. I felt my ulcer starting up as soon as I turned off the engine. Joe walked back to my muddy vehicle and stated, "You ready to do this?" Yes, I muttered as I got out of the car. "You can't take your weapon into the Capitol, DJ." I sighed as I removed the Glock and holster from my belt. It was a weapon for someone confident in their ability to handle it, and in my case, genuinely afraid for their life. Hollow point bullets, one in the chamber, no safety. I had slept with it for the last 6 months and practiced every day firing off 1,000 rounds a week at my mountain hideout. My longtime friend and colleague, Joe Reynoso, and my attorney, Lanny Tron, stood next to me outside the California State Capitol. I was nervous, and it was written all over my face. Naturally, my appearance looked like the bad guy wrestler the crowds love to hate. At 6 feet, 6 inches tall, and 300 pounds, a shaved head and broad frame, I looked and lumbered like a pro football lineman. From years working in the prison systems, my disposition was solid, emotionless, and unreadable, except for today. I had worked for the state of California for 16 years, but had never been inside its Capitol building before. Together, the three of us set off toward the Capitol. Near the southeast end of the building, a dozen TV news vans and crew members hauled equipment into the state Senate chambers. I figured this was standard, as there must regularly be important news to report from the Capitol. Reynoso and Tron knew differently, but kept their silence. At the entrance, I was thoroughly searched for any weapons I could have been carrying, while Reynoso, who was heavily armed, showed his credentials and entered through a discreet, separate gun port. Even with heightened post-9/11 security, there was nowhere in California that Joe wasn't allowed to carry his concealed weapons. For this reason, he accompanied me to court. I stopped just short of the tall double doors of the governor's office, where a group of California Highway Patrol troopers in tailored uniforms stood at attention. I fantasized for a moment about dropping in to share my story with Schwarzenegger, who promised during last fall's campaign to put a lid on runaway prison costs. I thought the governor might be interested in my grim story. The hearing was scheduled for 9 o'clock that morning, and a large crowd was already waiting outside the courtroom, which surprised my attorney, Lanny. He had expected something more private, like the other administrative hearings, lawyer-like arguments around a conference table. Instead, there was a rude scramble for seats as soon as the bailiffs opened the doors. My trial turned out to be the day's hot ticket in Sacramento, a joint session of the Senate Select Committees on Government Oversight and the California Correctional System. It was chaired respectively by Democrats Jackie Spear of San Francisco and Gloria Romero of Los Angeles. There were other members of both committees, but none with much enthusiasm for looking closely at my prison situation, so they only made perfunctory appearances. It was basically a two-woman show. Once inside the prestigious Burton Room, I was overwhelmed with its massive size and the people rushing through the doors. There were 200 theater-style seats rising from the floor, with another 200 on a wraparound balcony level. All were filled in 10 minutes and the doors were open. Spear opened the proceedings by waving a copy of that morning's Los Angeles Times, the state's biggest newspaper. Much of the testimony we will be hearing today will be startling and even unbelievable, she proclaimed. Whistleblowers who speak under oath fear for their jobs and their lives. I squirmed unnervingly. Beneath a bold headline on the front page of the paper was a massive photo of me followed by an article. Guard challenges code of silence. Today, Donald Joseph Vodka will stand before a state Senate committee on prison reform, not as a guard but as a whistleblower. Instead of a career marked by commendations from wardens and prosecutors, the 41-year-old Vodka is set to testify about how he had to put away his green uniform after breaking what he calls the cardinal rule of guards: keep quiet in the face of officer brutality and corruption. In a lawsuit filed against the state, Vodka alleges that he blew the whistle on a gang of officers known as the Green Wall at Salinas Valley State Prison and was the subject of retaliation by co-workers and superior officers. The lawsuit contends that the Department of Corrections failed to shield Vodka under the state's Whistleblower Protection Act. The department, citing the lawsuit, declined to comment. As I looked around the room, my eyes met faces of people I had worked with over the years, the people who refused to support me when it mattered. The idea of testifying in front of them, most of them senior to me in the chain of command, not to mention the senators and all the cameras, terrified me. I have always been a loyal, by-the-book kind of officer, respectful of the chain of command. To expose my profession's dirty laundry in public offended me. Television networks would carry my hearing into every prison in the California system. Everyone I had ever worked with would be watching. I knew from experience that the prison family paid close attention to news about itself. I would certainly be labeled a snitch. Snitch Vodka. I waited nervously to testify. For 16 years, I tried to bring order and enforce the law in places where lawless chaos came naturally to the residents. I've been proud of my job and believed I was good at it. With a file full of recommendations to support that belief, I didn't understand how I came to this point, getting ready to testify against my old partners, my peers, my fellow officers, my friends. I stared at the empty witness chair, the room packed with eager spectators waiting to hear what I had to say. How could they possibly begin to understand my story? To understand the Green Wall, you need to know what prisons were really like, and that took years of experience to learn. "You okay there, partner?" asked Joe. I was breathing fast, stressing out. I wasn't ready for this. "Just tell them the truth. That's all you gotta do. It's that simple." 400 pairs of eyes fixated on me as my name was called by the bailiff. "Donald Vodka." "Come on," said Lenny. "We're up." I stepped through the low gate into the well of the Burton room. I looked up at the bailiff. "Raise your right hand," he ordered. I raised my hand. "Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give today before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" "I do."